All right, so the law of the ladder, character growth determines the height of your personal growth. Character growth determines the height of your personal growth. So, all right, so we are human beings, not human doings. So number one is ambition. Ambition. So a lot of times when people think about growing in the corporate ladder, what comes to your mind? What do you think most people think about when they think about growing in the corporate ladder, or
They want to get to the top.
They want to get to the top, and what are their main methods, would you say?
Step on each other, step on people while they're on the way up.
Yeah, right. Go, scam some people, or tear them down. Throw shade at them to make sure they look bad.
Throw shade?
Throw shade at them, or try to spread gossip, or try to use some underhanded methods, right, in order to get the upper hand over other people. And we see that all throughout this world. You see that with the media. People are doing the same thing with Trump. They're trying to bolster their careers by, even though they're not telling you the truth, they'll proclaim it as truth to try to get ahead and to get the big story, right? And so we understand as born-again believers, that's not how we're supposed to do things. The way we're supposed to do things is that we're supposed to serve others, right? So number one is ambition. What does John mean by ambition without guidance? What do you guys think that means? Ambition without guidance.
Well, I feel like you can have a lot of ambition to do stuff, but you need it channeled the right way. And
Okay.
you need somebody to guide you
Yes.
through your ambitions. Because you could have ambition all day long and go about things. He's talking about people, that one guy who kept starting business after business after business after business. And
Yes.
kept failing in all of it, he needed guidance.
Yes.
So he had great ambition.
That's good, because just because you're passionate, just because you have ambition towards something, right? It doesn't mean that you're gonna achieve it if it's not well guided. Because what happens with ambition? How can ambition be a negative thing?
Well, especially if it's not in God's will. If you're not asking the Lord for guidance and seeking His guidance in things, you're just going without Him and you're gonna fail. And it doesn't matter how ambitious you are, you could just be going down the wrong path.
Okay, so for example, let's say those who are really ambitious toward their job, right? Now, a job isn't necessarily a bad thing, but you can be so focused on, climbing up the corporate ladder, or trying to please your boss, that you're willing to sacrifice your family life, you're willing to sacrifice your walk with Christ, you're willing to sacrifice going to your kids' games or stuff like that, all for that ambition towards something that doesn't necessarily matter, right? So our ambition has to be guided, right? And how do we know what's the right ambition? What are some guidelines we can put in our life? What are some guardrails that you personally have put in your life?
Well, I would say that you can overall seek God's wisdom for His will for your life.
Okay.
But specifically, if you narrow it down, you could have the rule in your family, I'm not going to work on Sundays.
Okay.
I'm not going
Yes.
to have my kids, a lot of times our kids have practice and different things on Wednesday nights, and that's a no-go. If they get up at 6:30, someone could bring them here, and it's not interfering with us getting there or something like that. So there's certain things that are no-goes, that if you're going to narrow it down a little bit. But.
So the guardrail will be, it's all under the scope of your walk with Christ,
Yeah.
right? What else? Who else has some guardrails that you guys put in your life to help you focus?
Well, family time is important in our family, and so we always try to at least have one family day off a week where we're spending time together. With all of our different schedules with work and school and things like that, sometimes it can be hard, but it's okay, we're gonna have one day where we get to do something together or be together. So
That's good. Anyone else?
Well, like for us, like Thursdays, like I turn my phone off, and like you know this because sometimes like you go to the movies or something, and I'll look at it like on Friday morning. Just like setting aside that whole Thursday, you know, just to have that Sabbath, you know, to that God can do more with 6 days of work than I can with 7. So, like that's definitely been a guideline for us.
That's good. Anyone else? All right, let's go to the next one. Number 2, which is to be a success, think like a success. What do you guys think that means? To be a success, think like a success. What does that mean?
I think it's a mindset. Like if you think you're a loser, then you're gonna be a loser.
Okay, right? And so we've met, who here has met someone like that before? Where they basically think like a loser in the sense of they think that they're no good and they have no value to other people. How do you feel like when you're around that type of person?
It's annoying.
It's annoying? Yes.
Get away from them.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Is that another would be like a victim mentality, right? So it's never their fault. It's always other people's fault, and you know it's just out of their hands. Who else has another example to give?
I know, like, even with, like, Wesley, he's, like, learning how to read, and when he has trouble, sometimes like, he'll be like, I'm so stupid. He'll say he's so stupid.
Uh-huh.
And he's kind of just joking, but I'm always like, no, you're not stupid. You're very smart. You know, you're just learning. You have to learn how to do this. And so even just self-talk
Yes.
of, you know, of that you're not no good and all of that self-talk. But if you talk yourself up saying, no, I'm smart, I can do this, then you're going to think like a success and you'll be a success.
That's good. Who here has ever had negative self-talk before? Raise your hand. I think that's pretty much all of us, right? Okay, let's continue on this line. What else can we pull from this? To be a success, think like a success.
Well, it's biblical too. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he.
Mm-hmm.
There's that phrase, I think it's what gets, can't get the first part, but it's like what gets thought on or what gets focused on gets expanded.
Mm-hmm.
So like that eventually what, you know, what you think of here will dictate how you behave.
Yes. So it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. You know, I think about what happens if you go to the gym, right, or you go for a run. You say, "Oh, I can't do it." Right? Every time you're lifting weight, you're saying, "Oh, I can't do it." Are you going to be able to lift as much? Not at all, right? But if you say, "Oh, you know, I can do it," right? I'm able to do it. Then you know that you're able to go far above than what you're able to. So we understand that a lot of it has to do with that inner self-talk, what it is that you tell yourself. So how do we improve our self-talk? What can we do?
Get around people who are motivated.
Get around those who will motivate you, right? And those who are motivated. Okay, what else can we do to bolster our self-talk?
And for me, it's helped like listening to these audiobooks and stuff,
Mhm.
you know, with people who are a success.
Yes.
It's helping me change my mindset,
Mhm.
you know, especially when they give examples of people who you would think were losers or whatever and what they like overcame
Mhm.
to become a success. And so even though I could talk myself down like, well, yeah, but I'm me, like what are the chances I could become that? But it helps remove all that when you kind of
Yes.
put on in all these success stories and all
Mhm.
these things like, oh, well, I'm not dumber than them. Like, I can do it, you
Yes.
know? So, putting in those kind of thoughts.
Good. How else can we improve our self-talk?
I think either journaling or successes you've had during the day.
Okay.
I know how, like we just said, like what's a blessing? Like it's,
Mhm.
you know, it takes a little minute to struggle sometimes to find a blessing, whereas a
Mhm.
complaint is real in front of your head. And so I think if we were to we do something like, I actually did that, you know, you're thinking, I did that right, like I figured that out,
Mhm.
I controlled my temper and stuff, and maybe think upon that a little more, and then maybe so it's quick to, man, I did this wrong.
Yes. So looking for the positive spin
Yeah.
on things, okay? What else can we do?
Kind of piggybacking off of hers is like first thing in the morning, writing a list of what your goals are for the day.
Okay. Oh.
And and then, just tackling them, and at the end of the day, you kind of, you feel like, wow, even though they were just these small things, you feel like a success because you accomplished, you did something with your day instead of just going about the same exact day over and over again.
So it's good when you set goals and you reach it, then you tend to feel like a success, right? That's why I like Dave Ramsey, he does that debt snowball. He doesn't say, hey, tackle that big giant debt first. Try to conquer that because you're going to give up halfway or not even halfway. But if you conquer like the small debt that you have, you're like, oh wow, I can do this. And it begins to grow and grow and grow and grow. And so that's the same thing. Like we have to do things in our life that we can be successful at even in the small things. Right? That's why they say, I think the power of habits, like going to the gym, that is one of the keystone habits because if you're able to get one of the main things in your life down, it flows out and affects everything else, right? So I think about like when, who here watches the news? Right? So the majority of us, we don't watch the news, and why do we not watch the news?
It's all negative and depressing.
Yes, negative, depressing, and so what happens to your mood? Let's say you do, for some reason, you flip through a channel and it's on. Like, what do you do when you notice like you're watching it? What do you notice about your mood?
Upset, angry,
Yeah, you're upset, you're angry, right? And we've,
yelling at the TV.
yes, and we've seen those type of people on Facebook or maybe in our own lives or maybe even some church people or whatnot, right? Where they're so consumed with all the negative stuff, right? And it just flows out of them, and do you necessarily want to be around that type of person? No, right? Because it's depressing. Like it ruins your mood and ruins the mood around you. Those who live with someone, we all live with someone, right? Even Amos has a roommate. So what happens if our co-workers or the closest people next to us have negative attitude? How does that affect our attitude? Same thing, right? So we have to choose, and even the children, right? If they have negative attitude, that affects our attitude as well. So we have to we have to set guardrails in our life, and we have to make sure that we're implementing some strategies in our life, right? In order to think like success, right? So I don't think you guys have one of those, but it says, describe some ways successful people think. What are some inner self-talk that some people have?
I got this.
Yeah, I got this, right? This is easy. What else?
The other thing that's been like resonating with me lately is people, like when they fail,
Mhm.
they just use it as a learning experience.
Yes.
Like, I'm not this horrible failure of a person just because I failed in this one area. Like you can't get better if you don't ever fail at something. So I think like having that
That's
kind of
good.
mindset, like, well, hey, that means I can just get better from this, you know?
So one of the biggest things is how we view failure,
Yeah.
right? I love that quote. The master has failed way more times than the student has ever tried. Right? So, and it's because their mindset of failure. When they look at failure, whenever they fail, they're like, oh, I quit. Right? And it's, no, hey, that means that I can learn from my failure. I know what not to do, and I'm going to try again, and I'm going to get better. Right? I'm not going to stay as a failure, but I'm going to become better. Who knows, what was that? I forgot that one lady's name, the one who made Spanx. I don't even know what those are, but it was like a...
I already like it. Keep going.
Alright, so it's a person who created Spanx, right? Like, many people told her before, like, hey, I've had this idea before, but how come I'm not the one that implemented it, right? And she gave a story of how when she was a kid, her dad would always ask at the dinner table, what is one thing that you failed at today? Because he was trying to get in the mindset that failure isn't negative. Failure is something that is positive in your life, and it's how you look at failure that will lead to either continual failure or eventual success, right? So review the list of topics on page 144 for 141. Nancy, do you have that book?
Yeah.
I'm gonna maybe get that to you. Do you want to read those words there?
Which one? The list, right?
Yes. Can you read some of those? So before you do so, what are the top two areas that you would like to explore in your own lives? So think about two areas of the list that she's going to read and ask yourself, what do I want to explore? What do I want to get better in my life?
Restraint, generosity, hard work, motives, honesty, patience, humility, productivity, dependability, temper, attitude, facts, goals, planning, boundaries, proper thinking, common sense, prosperity, emotions, sowing, direction, correction, conflict, pressure, criticism, judgment, confrontation, forgiveness, ethics, ownership, ambition, listening, co-signing, responsibility, debt, saving, developing people, understanding people, inspiration, and influence.
Okay. What are some of the ones in your life that you would like to improve on? All of them? We'll pick one and two and come up with a self-talk that you could come up with for that. I know one of the ones I struggle with is confrontation. You know, I don't, even though I'm like kind of loud as a person, but I don't like confronting people, right? So that's something that I need to work on myself. And I'm thinking one that I can, self-talk, I can tell myself is, I like confronting people because when I do so, it helps them, and it helps me, and it helps everyone. Now just living it out, that's something different, right? Who else has one?
Can I see that list?
I thought generosity,
Okay.
and this is another thing I keep hearing a lot of, is people who are striving to better themselves financially or whatever. It's, you always have to start with giving.
Yes.
It's the people who hold on and are tight with their money or whatever are the people who tend to struggle financially. And so it's just been something that's been kind of, I've been hearing a lot about lately, like just being more generous.
That's good.
Yeah.
I like that illustration of like, when you hold on to things, what can't you do? If my hands are like this and someone's trying to give me something.
Take
Yeah.
more.
Yeah, you can't take more, right? If you're too busy holding onto things. So when you open up your hands, then you're able to receive more.
Mine's confrontation too.
Yeah.
Just gives me the quiver lip just even saying that. Like, I hate confrontation. But mine would be, it's the silence of not confronting somebody is a greater liability to me
Yes.
than not confronting it, and not in a harmful, painful way, but just letting it breathe and give it air to say something to somebody is like, that it's worth it versus
Yes.
the silence of it.
Yes.
One thing that I'm working on is saving, specifically like saving funds, and I struggle with that because I'm one of those, I'm like a spender, so if I have money, I don't care to save, and Anthony's really all about saving right now, and so like it's hard for me to like, well, we could save all this money for a rainy day, or we can have fun with it now. So I need to change my mindset.
How would you change your mindset?
I think just telling myself that that it's good to save, and maybe list some of the reasons, or have goals of what we're saving for, and so then there's something to like
That's good, yeah.
has to save for, I guess.
I think always inevitably something comes up, always. And because I've done that too,
Yeah.
where I've been doing better about changing my mindset with that. But it was like, well, I've got the money now, like I can go buy what I need. And then as soon as like that money's gone, all of a sudden something goes wrong. And I'm like, man, I wish I wouldn't have done that. I should have saved that money, you
Yes.
know, because something always comes up. Cars, houses, whatever.
All the above. Anyone else? Maybe it's speaking up.
Well, that's not on the list.
one thing that wasn't on the list that in my whole, I was just listening for that word because I knew it was something
Hmm.
for me, but it wasn't on the list, was health.
Okay, yes.
And that's one thing I struggle with, is just eating right and exercising. And I know that if I can get my health in check, everything else just trickles down into every other aspect of my life. But it's one of the things I struggle with the most,
Mhm.
going back and forth with that, so.
What is an area you would like to improve in your life? Doesn't have to be on the list, it's more or less
I
the
think
ideas.
I put temper like self-control, because sometimes like I can go through the emotion and if something go bad
Mhm.
or I get mad at him, I feel like I get all my stuff inside and I feel like I should have more like self-control. And so I always try to tell myself, this is not who I am, you know, I can be
Okay.
like better than this and like don't let like go through the emotion.
That's good.
Oh, there was that temper.
Self-control. It's not who you are.
I was gonna pinch him for you.
Since mine was confrontation, Brother Josh.
Nice communication. Nice communication. No, yeah, I would say add communication, but understanding people was one of them. Like, I'm like the type of person who doesn't like a lot of people because I just don't get why people are do stupid things or whatever. Just figure it out. You know, the way I got through, I get through life, I just figure it out, and I don't like these people who can't figure it out or like leaning on everybody else to do something for them. So those type of people, like just understanding. I'm sure there's a reason for why they act that way, but for me to understand that is hard. So I just understand people.
Okay. So what's one way you can maybe change the way you view people?
Probably just try to see from their perspective. Maybe
Okay.
somebody they're going through something,
Yeah.
or they've been through something that I don't know about, or I've never been through, so I don't understand or whatever. So.
I also think maybe you could look for, it might be hard, but like one positive characteristic of the person,
Yeah.
where it's like, all I see is negative, but I'm going to look for the one thing that's positive. Who else did I not ask?
Miss Pam.
Miss Pam? I saw you writing some stuff, so.
Well, mine is, I don't know. I'm not good at speaking either, but, that's probably where Josh gets it. But, and I'm not like that, you know, like him. I understand a lot of how people are. I have a lot of empathy and all that, which I don't think he does. Just a little. But, mine is confrontation. I don't like the confrontation. I don't like it at all. And I need to work on that. But, and debt, that's what I need to work on. And I don't remember what else. There was quite a few on there.
Okay, yeah. And I think a lot of it, we covered in the lesson before, it's how you view it. It's, even though it might not be real right now, but when the way you improve your self-talk is, instead of saying, I don't like certain things, you say, I do like it, or, I'm able to do it, or, looking for that positive as to why you want to improve that in that area. Did I ask my wife that?
She's trying to hide it.
Yeah, she's avoiding eye contact.
Oh, it was, and I was reading the list. I think my goals, if there's something I struggle with,
Okay.
is writing out my goals and like what I'm gonna do for the day. Like I like that, like the whole writing it out for the day that Sandra was saying. And that's something I'm gonna work on.
Good.
To do.
Mr. Amos?
You didn't ask Nathan.
Oh, he's coming.
No.
I mean,
Avoidance.
I think one as you said is productivity. I think I'm good, like at like doing what I know I need to do, but like kind of planning for just finding ways to increase in productivity in everything that I'm doing, and focusing on it, and like using up dead space or dead time or whatnot to like be more productive.
How do you improve your inner self-talk with that?
I think it just has to be a time of like focused, where I tell myself to really focus in on things without distractions, and so putting aside any distractions or other thoughts where I'm constantly thinking about other things, and focusing in on one of my tasks, like one of the areas that I'm, because I have like 6 or 7 different areas that all need to grow, and sometimes I can just like get exhausted and not try anything because I try to think of them all as a whole.
Okay.
And instead of maybe encouraging myself to just take one at a time.
Okay.
And trying to figure out ways to increase productivity and everything.
That's good. Nathan?
Well, what I'm going through right now is the like wanting all the focus to be on me. And like that was like the whole message yesterday morning was about like that the focus isn't supposed to be on myself. So that's what God's teaching me right now in my life, is like focusing on other people, focusing on Him, and not craving to be that, that focus, that focal point. So
It's good. All right, so number 3, the value of character. The value of character. Is there any surprise that honesty is the top trait universally valued by people? Who here likes liars? People who lie to you, deceive you? No one, right? So we value honesty, right? And why do we value honesty so much?
You can trust them.
You can trust them. Okay, that's good.
You can relate to them and their failures and stuff.
Mm-hmm. So you know that you can relate to them. You know that if you tell them something, that they're not going to just blast it out, or they're not going to throw you under the bus or anything like that. And trust is a huge thing, right? Because trust is not something that we tend to give easily, or I guess some people do. But once we get hurt, it's hard for us to give it back. That's why you value honesty so much. 99% of leadership failures are failures of character. Think about that. 99% of leadership failures are failures of character. What do you guys think when you hear that? It's not management. It's not skills or talents or how many people follow you. It's character. And we see that throughout the Bible, right? We see those who had great character and those who didn't. Right? So I guess what he's trying to get at is that we have to be focused on character. We have to be focused on ourselves. We have to be focused on our walk with God. Because it goes from the inside out, right? Let's get the next one. Your potential is found one rung at a time. So rungs on the character ladder. I will focus on being better on the inside than the outside. Character matters. I will focus on being better on the inside than the outside. Character matters. The inside influences the outside. Who can speak to that a little bit? The inside influences the outside.
What you put in comes out.
What you put in comes out. Inside victories precede outside ones.
There's that whole self-talk again.
It's like whenever you see like those Olympic people, right? They visualize. I think it was Michael Phelps, the one who said like his coach told him like before you sleep every night, I want you to visualize swimming past, like being number 1. I want you to visualize, making it to the end of wherever the goal line, right? And I think the story was even told like during one of his ones where he won the gold, like something like, I don't know if like water got into his eye, but like it was really blurry. So all he did was just visualize the end. He visualized him finishing. So instead of saying like stopping right there, instead of complaining, he visualized it so many times that it just came to him. Right? So we have to visualize what are some ways that we can do this?
I think just going back to what I had said earlier with in the beginning of the day, not just listing out your goals, but visualizing what you're going to do throughout the day. And like a lot of times I kind of run through the day. Okay, what do we have to do? Okay, we're going to do this, then we have to go here, and then I'm like, okay, well, what do I need for that? And so so using the visualness to plan your day, I guess.
Yeah, and because what happens if you don't plan your day? What happens to is something going off the camera?
Yeah, turn off. Good. Push start.
Yeah.
Josh is good.
Josh is the version.
So what happens if you notice that you don't plan the day?
Willy-nilly.
Willy-nilly, right? I know, like here at work, if I don't have like set things, I'm like the pastor didn't tell me, hey, I want this done by this time, and I don't look at my large to-do list I have backed up, then I will spend my time doing who knows what. And who's done that before at work, where you don't necessarily use it as effective as you can. So when you put in place a plan, if you plan to if you fail to plan, then you plan to fail, right? So we need to have a plan.
I don't know what we're doing. She just put the video on Josh.
Is anyone even watching it?
I don't know.
Did we plan this out?
I recorded on that one, so
That was funny. It was like Josh's face.
I'll have to cut that part out.
That's how we were seeing. Yeah,
Is Josh?
Okay, that was close.
Reverse.
There's his hand.
All right, there we go. All right, so let's have a game plan in place. Let's have goals set in place. Let's visualize. Oh, here's the top 3 things I want to get accomplished. Like if I get these things done in my life, then I know that I have succeeded. What is something in let's go with 3 things. Okay? What are 3 things in your personal life where if you get accomplished, then you know that you succeeded? Then we will start with Amos and Beck.
Is this for your lifetime or like today?
Daily.
It doesn't like in life. Yeah.
Okay.
Like so at the end of your life, what are 3 things that you want to be known for?
Dude, that's like.
Yeah.
Josh's eyes got big.
What are 3 things you want to be known for? You can take a moment too if you want to think about it.
I think like Paul, you want to finish your course, you kept the faith,
Okay.
that my children have done the same.
Okay. So you raise children who walk with God, that you walk with God, and what's the last one? You'd say.
Anybody else got 2? I give it 2. I'll have to think about the third one.
Finish your race, D3.
I'm finished.
Well, mine would definitely be I want to be married to my wife for my whole life.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
What about her whole life?
Yeah, her whole life, yeah, my whole life, whoever wants to get down here first.
Okay.
What about generosity?
Okay, so you want on your
I
tombstone?
mean, I
it
put
says
faithful servant
generous.
also. somewhere.
Okay, faithful servant. I feel like you guys are giving me two.
What are yours? What are yours?
I'd
Yeah, there you
say.
go.
Compensation.
How dare you call me?
Good job, Amy, you're already
Do you like
I already went
confrontation?
today.
I'd say loving husband, someone who
Amazing.
loved the Lord, and my last one. That third one's hard, huh?
See?
That's why I asked for three, because the third one's hard. Someone who helped people.
Yeah, I think just like there's just people you meet in life that usually they're older because probably they've spent more time obviously working on it. But like as soon as you meet them, you just know they're like very close to God. They just like carry themselves that way, and they're usually very humble. Not really. They don't like say much, but you can just tell. Very spiritual people. So I guess like I would want that, like to be known as a man of God, but not in the sense of like, you know, oh yeah, he's always up there preaching or he's always up there singing, but you can just tell by their character that man, that guy's close to God. And then yeah, a great family man. And then third, I think just whatever I end up doing for the rest of my life, that I was successful in it.
Let's go. No escape to this question.
Mine is similar to Amy because I wanna like one day like I wanna be able to give so much and bless other people that I think that's one of the things that I want. But when I die, I want people to remember, oh, she has a heart like to give to people and help people.
Let's go.
I think a friend might be that's good to know is like, you know, he was there, you know, when they needed him.
Sandra.
All mine kind of got already.
I mean, but yeah, you can still
But,
say it.
I would say that I finished strong with my walk with God, didn't waver in that, my faithfulness. Similar that my kids also walk with God, that would be, you know, if they're still walking with the Lord when I die, that would really be great. And then also that obviously I'd be married still, and that our marriage would still be like, I know a lot of times as the kids move out and you grow old together with somebody, it can turn more into more like just a roommate type situation, but I would want like our marriage to always be strong and have a lot of love in it.
Feels good. Good, Josh.
Mine would be obviously for my kids to walk with the Lord, walk in truth, and that my family's set up financially and has financial freedom to be able to serve. And you know, I have a goal to set up a foundation to help Christian families with scholarships for their kids for Christian schools. So I'd like to have that set up too.
That's good. Nancy.
Mine's kind of like Jonathan was saying, to just be known in my life for just serving others and loving others. For our family to walk with the Lord, and just faithfulness, just the love of the Lord in our life.
That's good. Miss Penn.
Be a blessing to others. faithful servant of the Lord. And know that my all my family, my grandchildren are serving the Lord and loving God.
And so the question becomes at this point, is what you're doing today, is what you've done yesterday, did that take you one step closer to that goal? Because it's easy for us with life to get sidetracked, to focus on other things. So if we keep those main things in front of our lives, we know that down the road we'll be happy. Because we've done what God has placed in our heart. So don't get sidetracked and don't chase after other things, right? Sure, it's fine if other things come up, but remember what your and my priorities are in order for us to succeed in what God has given to us for our life, right? Which one are we on? B. I will follow the golden rule, which is people matter. Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, soul, and mind. Second is like unto this: thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. Letter C is I will only teach and develop. I will only teach what I believe. Passion matters. People matter. Passion matters. So we understand why people matter. That's pretty obvious. Why does passion matter?
Because it's personal, it's what you're passionate about.
Mm-hmm. Because if you're not passionate about something, then first other people will see it, and also you won't be motivated to go toward it, right? So if you're not passionate about saving, then are you going to save? Probably not, right? If you're not passionate about God, are you going to read your Bible and pray? Probably not. If you're not passionate with improving your relationship with your wife, are you going to, or husband, are you going to invest into that? Not at all, right? If you're not passionate about serving God, are we going to, for those who, pretty much all of us who are serving in ministry, are we going to be doing it? Not at all, right? So remember what our passions are and focus on those things. I will value humility above all virtues. Perspective matters. Perspective matters. While many people don't plan to mess up, even more don't plan not to. Who remembers that quote in the book? I know there's a few people, but I really like that. While many people don't plan to mess up, even more don't plan not to, right? So make sure we're planning to not mess up, right? And we do that by our guardrails. Remember the big picture, remember who we really are. Be teachable. Recognize that everyone has weaknesses. How does that speak to you guys? Recognize that everyone has weaknesses.
I know it's easy for me to not expect perfection, but like out of my kids. Like I expect them to just do it right.
Yes.
Do it right all the time. But that's not realistic. You know, they have weaknesses just like I do, and I think that's people in general. You know, probably like Josh as a boss, he probably wants everything done right with his employees, but they have weaknesses where they are going to fail in areas. And I think in the ministry, you really don't want people to have problems. Like, just get your stuff together and deal with it. But you can't truly serve people if you don't accept them with their weaknesses, and that's part of who they are, and love them, in spite of that, just like Christ loves us with all of ours.
And God made us unique, right? So God knew that we will have strength and we have weaknesses. And oftentimes, the greater our strengths that we have, the greater weaknesses that we have, right? It just shows a lot more the areas that we are weak in. One of the things I like about, it's kind of along those lines, is that whenever we see, let's say someone has their kid, right? And they're like misbehaving in public, they're screaming in the supermarket, right? They're throwing a tantrum. We tend to associate that with a negative thought toward the parents, right? So we never give them the benefit of the doubt. Someone comes in late to work. Oh man, they're lazy, I can't believe they do that. But whenever we look at our own selves, and we come late to work, or our kids are throwing tantrums, we tend to make excuses. Right? So remember that everyone has weaknesses, and we have to, and that's where being humble kind of comes into place, knowing that we're not perfect, knowing that, hey, you know what, I mess up as well. Because isn't it just, it's pretty annoying when someone's like really prideful and they're pretending like they're not. Because it just like, it kind of oozes out of them. Like they're saying certain things and it just, you can tell like they're trying to come out as humble, but just the wording, it's like, you can sense that they're being prideful about it. You guys know what I'm talking about, right? And you know, no one likes that, right? With only one notable exception, we are all fallible. Everyone is human, right? And I know that's something I struggle with as well, is like knowing that, hey, I mess up too, right? It's easy for me to point the finger at everyone else. Oh, they're the problem. Oh, they're the reason why it's like this. But, you know, whenever we point, right, it's normally, you know, 3 fingers or 4 fingers if you're weird. You know, 3 fingers pointing back at yourself. Have a beginner's mindset. Keeps one pliable and moldable to new truths. Why is it important to have a beginner's mindset?
Well, then you've never arrived.
You've never arrived, right? Because what happens, because Brother Josh, you're doing real estate right now, right? So what happens if you look at an apartment building and you're like, oh, I know everything that's happening here, even though it's like out of town. What does that do to you?
You're putting you in a bad position to where there's things that are definitely unseen that you don't see yet.
So you might not know the neighborhood that's in, right? So you don't know the people, you don't know the tenants or anything like that. So that can put us into a very bad position. Same thing for here. Let's say with Nathan, right? Amos came along and you're like, oh, I already know how to do music, right? How would that cripple you and this ministry?
Well, either I would have left or he would have left. Yeah. It would have stopped us from growing how we have with the music. And it would have made him very frustrated to not be able to use his abilities that God's given to him.
And I know one of the ones that I struggle with a lot is saying, oh, I know. Who said that before? Oh, I know, right? Even though it's like, no, stop saying I know and just listen, be open-minded. And many times, I think he actually mentions it in a lesson before, if you're the top of your class, then you're in the wrong class, right? Always seek to improve yourself. Be willing to serve others. Putting others first right sizes our ego. So let's be willing to serve others. Life is not all about us. Serve someone for whom there is no chance of gaining anything in return. Who is it in your life that you're serving where there's nothing to gain in return? Right? Especially the higher you are, I'm sure like Brother Josh mentioned it before, people always want something from you, especially once they find out what it is that you do. So that's probably why you get along with certain people, is because you know that they don't want anything from you. And that's why we get along with some people, right? Some people in church, they might come to us because we know that they want something from us, right? And Ms. Andre could probably attest to that, right? Or someone, they want to get some information from you about something, and it's just, if someone comes up to you to church every single time to ask you about an event, and they never ask, oh, how are you doing? How does that make you feel?
Well,
She's used to it, probably.
yeah. I'm sure it's not like they're just there to get information or to get something from me, but I brush it off.
Right? And it can become kind of like, where's the relationship at? Right? I'm sure, especially as Pastor Brown, right? I'm sure the great majority of people who come up to him is, oh, hey, Pastor, and which is like, that's his job, right? But, hey, Pastor, can you pray for this? Hey, Pastor, I need money for this, right? Hey, Pastor, I need this. Hey, Pastor, I need that. And that can, like, I can't even imagine like how overwhelming that can be. And that's why That's why it's good that he has friends like, Brother Josh, people who knew him before being a pastor, he can hang out with, right? And so next one, you guys don't have on yours, but be grateful. Gratitude expresses our dependence on others and our own vulnerabilities. How does being grateful show that we're vulnerable?
And it shows that we're thinking upon the little things or the big things, and we're not just taking things for granted. And,
Who likes it when you do a favor for someone? And obviously, we don't necessarily expect anything in return, but it's nice when they say thank you. Right? It's like, at least, hey, I'm not doing it for the thank you, but it's still nice to hear thank you once in a while for what it is that I do.
I do expect something in return.
Yeah, we were at the gym this morning, we were leaving the mall, and there was this guy that was walking up while I was holding the door, so I just held the door open for him. And he walked in, just completely ignored me, and so I said, "You're welcome." And I shut the door and I walked away. I stood there, I was purposely for him, He's just walk right on through it, didn't even acknowledge my presence. I was like,
Yes.
"You're welcome."
That is great, yes.
Yeah, I always feel that when if I'm in the fast lane or whatever lane I'm in and there's a motorcycle coming up, and I'll move aside. And usually when you move aside, I didn't know this, but when I first started driving, I moved aside and they would give me a wave, thank you. And then now it just annoys me when they don't give me the wave. You're supposed to do that.
I didn't know I was supposed to do that. Whoopsies.
No, and it's something looks you and you're supposed to just kind of.
Right.
Yes.
Yes.
throw a hand up.
Yeah.
So be grateful, right? What happens if we kind of covered this already? What happens when you're around someone who's grateful all the time? Do you want to be around that person? Of course you do, right? But if you're with someone where there's just always negative, you don't want to be around them. We all have found our successes through the help of others interested in our success, right? So let's be grateful for just the small opportunities. Be grateful for Pastor. Be grateful for those around us. The next one, letter E, I will strive to finish well. Faithfulness matters. And we kind of covered this already. In life, one can never stop. They either finish or keep going. What does that mean? In life, one can never stop. They either finish or keep going. And maybe number two, we'll kind of put into perspective. Our character is being developed until we are finished.
You shouldn't give up.
Okay, don't give up. That's good.
Well, if somebody says I'm gonna stop being faithful to my spouse in their marriage, the marriage is pretty much finished at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or I'm gonna stop sharing the gospel, then your ministry is done.
Yes. So keep going, stay faithful, right? And really, our character doesn't really stop. Our character development doesn't stop until the day we die. Right? Because either our character is developed toward that of a negative character or toward a positive. Right? So it takes steps to go toward the positive, faithful character. The stronger your character, the greater your growth potential. Discuss a quote. He was born mud, but died marble. How is that lived out? Who remembers that quote from the book? Thank you. I vaguely remember it. I remember he talks about there are some people who are born mud and they die as mud, right? And there are those who are born mud and die as marbles, or I don't know if he says this, but I can say it and pretend like he said it. There are those who were born marbles, but they die as mud, and there are those who are born marbles and they say they die as marble. What does that mean?
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, if you're born in mud and you turn into is it a marble or marble?
Yeah.
Okay.
Marble. Sorry,
You
my
can
Asian
use
accent.
they clean themselves up, they shine themselves up, they made them into perfect shape as to what they're supposed to be. And that means a journey of growth. That means improvement. That means keep going. That means
Strength.
It's good. So in other words, we should use what we've been given with, right? So some of us, we can, and we see this all throughout, especially our culture, right? People are born whether in poverty, right? And they die in poverty because not necessarily because they lack opportunities, because they failed. They always have that victim mentality, right? They view themselves as a failure, so at the end of their life, they die as a failure. But like what you were talking about, you have those who are born in poverty and they die as a success, right? I think about Helen Keller, probably one of the greatest examples that we can think of, other than Christ, obviously, because he was born in a manger and whatnot. But with Helen Keller, right? She was what? What was wrong with her? She
Deaf and dumb.
deaf and dumb, right? So
And blind.
no, she wasn't dumb because she could speak. So she was
Oh yeah,
deaf
And blind.
and blind.
There you go.
And what was she able to do at the end of her life? Remember some of the stuff.
She was like a speaker.
Yeah, she was a speaker. I think she spoke like several different languages. Someone who was deaf and blind. I mean, those are very important stuff, right? But she died as a success because the way she viewed herself. Because she didn't let those things define who she was as a person, right? So let's not let our past failures define us as a person, but let's view us like the way Christ views us, right? He views us as Pastor Series?
Loyalty.
Royalty, right? Let's embrace our royalty. That's for you, Pastor, if you're watching. When you live this law, you will show others the way, and this empowers them to learn it and to live it too. Let me, is that quote in your thing? I'll read that one more time. When you live this law, you will show others the way, and this empowers them to learn it and to live it too. It's that when you're around those type of people, right? That's why we like being around Pastor, right? Because he's all like, oh, you can't do it, you're a failure, right? And he might say that to Jesse every once in a while, right? But we like being around him because he's passionate about God, right? So people come to this church because they're like, man, like, Pastor's on fire for the Lord, like, and they want to be around that type of person. But people want to be around those who are positive. So when we choose to live this life, right, where we have that, where we believe that we can do whatever God has given to us, where we don't view ourselves negatively, that impacts our children, that impacts our spouse, it impacts our family. And so once our family members gain the same mindset as us, what happens? It impacts their family. Right? What does the Bible verse say when about the wicked ruler when he's in power? I'm trying to slip in my mind.
When the wicked bears rule and people mourn.
Yeah, when the wicked bear rule, right? The people mourn. Because he's such a great influence that everyone else feels the effect of it. So we can change the course of those around us and impact their families just by the way we live our life. That's why do you think there's so many biographies out there, right? Because we understand when we read those biographies, right, that can change our life. That's why we like listening to podcasts, right? Because when we listen to the success of others, we say, hey, you know what, I can do it, and that encourages us, and that empowers us. Does anyone else have anything to add? Check this out. Hey, we're doing good. All right, so overcoming growing pains. Assess where you have placed most of your growth energy up until now in your life. Has it been on the inside or the outside? You know, what is it that you're focusing on? Are you focusing on all these other things that don't necessarily matter? Are you chasing rabbits, or are you intentional with the way you're living your life? Like playing video games, I use that as a personal example, right? That was me focusing on the outside. That was me focusing on things that does not matter whatsoever at the end, right? But now I'm focusing inward. I'm focusing on going to the gym. I'm focusing on trying to like improve things with my wife. I'm trying to focus inwardly to be more intentional with how I live my life. So assess your life right now. You don't have to say it out loud, but ask yourself, what is something that I'm doing that I don't need to be doing because or I should be doing less of because it's wasting this life that God has given to me. How much time do you spend on the things on the, did I read that one? Yeah, no? Okay. How much time do you spend on the things on the outside and how much time on the inside? You know, budget your life, right? You know, where's all my time going? Schedule specific time for developing the inside, humility, character, seeking others first, and family importance, right? I told you guys I was going to journal, and I failed on that, right? You know, I think I was good for like another 2 days, and then it went downhill. Who here journals successfully?
I did.
All right. Who's like, I don't know what you call like a addict journaler, where you kind of mess up, or I don't know if I'm using the term correct. Who here who would like to journal? Sorry, just ignore the past 10 seconds. Who here would like to journal, but you just you're not
You need to be consistent with it.
consistent with it? Okay. So scheduling certain things, like you were saying, scheduling time to be with your husband. Schedule, like Nathan, scheduling, you know, I'm not going to be on my phone on Thursday because I'm going to schedule that time to be with my wife, right? So if you don't schedule, what happens to your schedule? If you don't dictate your schedule, other people will dictate it for you, right? So think about what was most important in your life, what you want to be known for when you die, and schedule those things. Discuss the idea there are many decisions one must make before they have to, or they will make the wrong one. What does that mean? There are many decisions one must make before they have to, or they will make the wrong one. I think I know what it means because I was able to think about it earlier, but I don't know if it's correct. But what do you guys think that means?
I think putting up your own personal or family boundaries, like we won't cross this line, or we say yes to this stuff, we say no, we always say no to this kind of stuff, or before the opportunity comes where someone asks you on the spot, and
Yes.
you're like, oh, I don't know, or you're not in unity in what the decision's going to be between you and your husband or something. So you give room for the wrong decision.
Yes, because you plan to fail, right, by not putting up the boundaries in your life. All right. Explore this truth. Emergencies don't develop character; they reveal it. Revel it. It's supposed to be reveal. Oh, this is rebel. What does that mean?
It's like when you squeeze an orange juice comes out. Like
Yeah.
if you're squeezed in a tight moment, like you're gonna see there's anger that comes out of you, or patience,
There's a quote by Warren Buffett, like one of the most successful business people ever. He says it takes 20 minutes or 20 years to build a reputation, and 5 minutes to ruin it. So
Yeah.
like in those situations where the character comes out, like you could ruin everything you worked for in 5 minutes, but you can't build a reputation in 5 minutes.
No.
So,
Yeah.
and he says if you think about that, you'll do things differently. So like if you're always thinking about that, you'll live your life a little bit different.
And that's someone who prioritizes their character over what other things, right? Other being known for being a rich person, other than being known for something else, right? Being more talented than others. So when we're focused on our character, then we're able to guard through all that, right? I remember Dr. Gibbs, this was like years ago, he told a story how he was out golfing with a pastor, and the pastor, I think like, something happened, but then like, I think he like said the F word, because like just, after that, like they were all completely silent. He's like, oh, well, you know that there's something going on there with his life. And all it takes was that one moment. So guard our character. At the end of our life, God is going to be like, oh, you know, how were you as a basketball player, right, or anything like that. He's going to ask you, okay, how was your character? What did you do for me, right? You know, were you a light, or were you something or did you hide under a bushel? All right. The next chapter is the law of the rubber band. So, be here, or yeah.
I won't be long.
All right, let's close with a word of prayer. Then Anyone have anything to add before we close?
Next Sunday is Labor Day, so
Next week, we will not be here. Yes, thank you for that.
I know there's the softball game and I know a lot
Yes.
of people are gone. So.
Yeah, so we will not be here, so don't be here
The
next
fall.
Monday, please, because no one will be here, except for you. All right, let's close with prayer.